So if you don't see the base map that you're dealing with or layers that you're dealing with in Leaflet, stock Leaflet, do go check out the plugins because there's many. There's ones for Azure, Bing, and ESRI, Google Mutant, MapKit Mutant, and that. A product called Here, Gibbs, Global Imagery, Polar Map, because Webmacator is not good on the polls, because and that. There's different, I think, Carvest. This is a Norway. What it is sometimes is a nation will, use an ESRI technology, or they will use OGC web service in the background, but then they wrap their stuff around it, right? And so there's a Chinese TM tile map service, a Korean one as well, a Spanish web mapping service, Hong Kong services. So usually what it might be is that a layer too deep in their architecture, maybe you do hit like an OGC web service, but they have a layer in front, and so this part of the API helps you drill through that initial layer of hitting their service, like for Swiss and the Japanese one, and then usually, that might take a couple of calls to find out, okay, where in here is the web mapping service? Okay, now connect to it as a stock OGC WMS. But it all depends, right? And there's another one called Supermap. So like if you're dealing with one of these, I don't want to say uncommon, but slightly different base maps, and that there are these plugins, and you should check them out to see if it's a match with the data that you're trying to pull in. Talk a little bit about GeoJSON. Do a little bit of a deeper dive on the format. One big thing, usually if it's a layer concept, a whole bunch of features, it's called a feature collection. It's an object, and inside, and so that object is on par with a feature set that comes with the ArcGIS JavaScript API, very close to a feature class. So you're going to have some global information maybe about the SRID. The feature set has a lot more stuff about column types and domains and that, because these are concepts in the geodatabase, file, and enterprise. Feature collection isn't tied to that, but it is a bigger object that inside it has some coordinate reference information, like an SRID, plus then in a big array features. So this would be like, at this point, is kind of like a table, right? So the array manages the rows, and it's an array of objects. We'll say, the array is like the rows, and then the object inside. Here I have 3 objects inside. It'd be like having 3 rows, and then the data is organized inside there. In that, so features itself is pretty simple. It's a JavaScript array, done. It's the thing inside. This curly brace here, that's the complicated thing. There's a lot of self-describing stuff in the GeoJSON spec, which is good, because if you bump into some curly braces, you can usually ask, hey, what type are you? Are you the feature collection, or are you the feature? In that, inside the feature, so it'd be like feature collection dot features at 0 dot feature dot geometry is how it would look in code. The geometry is a little bit self-describing. What are you? Point, line, polygon, multi-polygon? And that sort of thing. It's based on the OGC, OpenGS Consortium Simple Feature Set, so it uses those names there. So I say line, but the actual word would be line string. If we were in the ArcGIS API, it's called polyline, so it is a slightly different word. So why do they use these particular words? Because they are the standard words for OGC. So a feature has some geometry. Inside that geometry are the coordinates in that. So point, line, polygon will use an array for the coordinates, and there might be a bunch of arrays within arrays as well. They handle the rings, like a multi-polygon can be many polygon. A polygon can have many rings, or a ring can have many vertices, so you'll have an array with an array with an array kind of concept. I mean, luckily, we don't usually have to get down at this level. We're going to use the mapping client API to pull it in, that kind of stuff. So a feature has some geometry. A geometry has some has a type and its coordinates. Also, part of a feature are its properties. These are like the column names. Like if you're used to ArcPro, if you're used to QGIS, when you right-click on a layer and open up the table, you get a table with some column names at the top. And so properties kind of is a key value pair of like column name value. column name value kind of concept. What you can do now is pause this video lecture and watch Demo 6 on GeoJSON. So what we do now is just go look at some fun examples of different types of integrations, mashup dashboards, and that along that spectrum or progression. So interactive chart, it's a mashup of Leaflet, Chart.js, which you're familiar with. The chart is inside a Leaflet info control. So before we would have it out in its own div. What this is, in this particular interactive chart demo, I'm going to show you two, but one of the first ones is the fact that the chart is embedded inside sort of like an info control. So this is like when you click on a feature and it pops all its attributes. So in one of those types of controls is where the chart is going to be. It's just that the info control is always displayed. It's based on layer events, so it's a mouse over. It's tied to a layer event called mouse over. It's about highlighting a feature, which we've seen in previous labs. So when a feature gets highlighted for a particular layer, mouse over, make the new chart. On mouse out, you clean out the chart. So on mouse over, you do an info.update, right? So we need this little info control to update itself, replace its chart. We send in a layer.feature.properties. So the particularly highlighted feature that we just moused over, we grab it, send its properties in. Those properties are used to create the new chart and that. And on mouse out, we just reset it, clear out the chart until we mouse into another one, and then a new chart will get, created inside the info control. So what you can do now is pause this video lecture and watch the demo on interactive charts. I'm going to show you two, one that uses the highlight feature and one that is sensitive to the chart is tied to all the features in the map, but if the map moves, pans in, like pans or zooms in, zooms out, then what features are part of the map change. Another one we look at for fun is the data visualization framework for Leaflet. Okay, so it's a data visualization framework for Leaflet. It helps you make a mashup, and that Leaflet for the map, and then the visualization uses a combination of different technologies in that. So the last updates were in 2016. What does that mean, right? So it's a good question. So what does it mean? It means that it's currently that project itself, I wouldn't say has a lot of high activity right now, but the libraries that it uses do. But there's some very interesting concepts in this visualization framework that might solve a problem for you. Okay, there are some nice visualizations, and at first you got to get into the right part of the documentation to find out what you're looking at and that sort of thing. I have a list for the demo about different things to look at or pay attention to, but a lot of like SVG markers, different types of chart markers, which is something I've seen in ArcMap and ArcPro, where you can label a map, but instead of a label, it is a chart, and the chart is based on other attributes in the data set. So for like every country, there's a little pie chart or a little bar chart that is drawn on top of the country to show some type of statistics based on the attributes of the vector data. Right? But it does give you an idea of what's possible, right? So sometimes you need to see some stuff and say, okay, I didn't know we could do that, or someone's worked that out. Okay, maybe we can borrow some of that code. Okay. So it could be worth the time to salvage some of the things that they're doing out of there, and that I wouldn't just bypass it. People did put some work into it, and it's got some definitely got some interesting concepts in there. But whether it's worth it to you personally, it would depend on the project or practicum or what work project that you're working on, whether what they're describing in this framework will help you solve a problem, right? And so you just want to quickly get in there and look and say, nah, that's kind of what we're after. How did they do it? Okay, maybe we can borrow that. So what you can do now is pause this video lecture and watch the demo on the data visualization framework. So some of the concepts I'll to watch for are SVG markers versus image markers, chart markers, right, where the marker is actually a chart. The geohash stuff, I don't know if we'll demo it because it's hard to demo it, but it deals with spatial indexing, so which would be a performance thing. There are other techniques that some mapping libraries use, like OpenLayers. They use a lot of what's called RBush, which is kind of a play on something called like an R tree. So two-dimensional indexing scheme of overlapping rectangles so that you can find things fast, right? The nice demo is clustering. That's always a nice thing to have. If you have lots of points, to draw each marker on the screen can really bog down the browser. If you can cluster them, right? And so that cluster might be 50 or 100 points, but the browser only draws one. That's pretty important. And they have like some new concepts for layers, like a data layer, their generic data layer, and then based off that, their chart layer or their ChlorPath data layer. So instead of you hand bombing all the code, because so many people do that, symbolized by some category, right, or some item, pretty common in ProMap QGIS. So they built a layer just to make that easier to send the colors in and the columns that you want to classify by.